Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Siddha Swarupananda Paramahansa Niti Namine Namo Siddha Swarupananda Paramahansa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prastayate. For speaking first offer my respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of my spiritual master, Jagakuru Siddha Swarupananda Srila Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada is the mercy manifestation of Lord Chaitanya, and Gaura Karuna Swarupaya, and very dear to Radha and Krishna, Radha Krishna Prastayate. Vanchakapa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanan Pavenbhyo Vaishnavbhyo Namo Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are like wish-fulfilling trees, able to fulfill all the desires of the living entities, and are very compassionate upon them. So Haribol, Namaste. Thank you for watching, and thank you for inviting me to speak on this congregational kirtan, Share the Mic program in celebration of Govardhan and Govardhan Puja. So I had quite a few points I was going to go over in relation to Govardhan and the events that gave rise to the first Govardhan Puja, which resulted in Indra becoming very, very bummed and causing a huge calamity in Vrindavan, and all the devotees of Krishna, all his family members and his friends, and the cowherd girls, the gopis, and the gopas, the cowherd boys, all taking shelter of Krishna and asking him to protect them. And then Krishna picking up Govardhan, which is like the king of mountains, Giriraj, a big hill, and holding it aloft with his little finger of his left hand, and for 7 days. And you can see in some paintings of this pastime of Krishna's, the lifting of Govardhan, Govardhan Giridhari, Krishna the lifter of Govardhan. Sometimes you see pictures where Nanda Maharaj and the different cowherd men are like holding like sticks to try and hold Govardhan, but of course the sticks are of no use. It's just Krishna's mystic powers. And of course Krishna, he doesn't have to have his hand there. It's not like Krishna is somehow holding it through the power emanating from his body out through his finger or something. He's like some great weightlifter or something. It's like Krishna is doing that just to demonstrate that he's the one who's actually doing it. He's the one who's holding Govardhan Hill and providing shelter to his beloved devotees as part of his pastimes that he displays when he comes to this material world and brings with him his Govardhan Hill from Goloka Vrindavan and all his associates and paraphernalia. So I was going to start with reading a verse by Srila Rupa Goswami from his Sri Upadeshamrita, the Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction. And this is text 9. The holy place known as Mathura is spiritually superior to Vaikuntha, the transcendental world, because the Lord appeared there. So Mathura is, a distance or a short distance from Vrindavan, and but Mathura is spiritually superior to Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha meaning the spiritual world, the place of no anxiety, and so it's superior because Krishna appeared there. But after he appeared, Vasudeva took Krishna from the prison cell in Mathura to Vrindavan, and where Yasoda had just given birth to a small baby daughter, and Vasudeva swapped Krishna for the daughter, and then Krishna then became the foster child of Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda. Superior to Mathura Puri is the transcendental forest of Vrindavan because of Krishna's Rasalila pastimes. So Vana refers to forest, and Vrinda is the Vrinda Devi. So the Vrindavan forest, or the forest of Vrinda, who's facilitates Krishna's pastimes, and in particular Krishna's Rasalila pastimes. So the forests of Vrindavan are superior to Mathura because Krishna conducts his Rasalila pastimes there. And superior to the forest of Vrindavan is Govardhan Hill, for it was raised by the divine hand of Sri Krishna and was the site of his various loving pastimes. So Govardhan Hill is superior to Vrindavan because it was raised by the divine hand of Krishna, and it was the site of his various loving pastimes, his loving affairs with the gopis, headed by Srimati Radharani. And above all, the super excellent Sri Radha Kund stands supreme, for it is overflooded with the ambrosial nectarine prema of the Lord of Gokula, Shri Krishna. So Radha Kund and Shama Kund are these divine ponds of Radha and Krishna's pastimes that took place after the killing of the forgetting the name of the demon. Anyway, the bull, Aristasura, the bull demon. Where after killing the bull, Radha said to Krishna, you're impure, you've now killed a bull, you need to bathe in the holy rivers. So Krishna then called the holy rivers into this small pond, Shamakund, that he created. And then Radharani, not to be outdone, then created Radhakund, which also filled with the holy rivers. And these two kunds, which are amazingly beautiful, are at the end of Govardhan Hill. So they're actually part of the same area of Govardhan. Where then is that intelligent person who is unwilling to serve this divine Radhakund, which is situated at the foot of Govardhan Hill? So I was going to speak a little bit about Govardhan. And so Govardhan, Krishna performs many of his childhood pastimes on Govardhan Hill with the beautiful gopis, the milkmaids, and his cowherd boyfriends. And Govardhan Hill is described as being the tilak marking of Raja. So there's Raj Mandal, the area surrounding Vrindavan town in this larger area. And then Govardhan Hill is described as being the tilak mark of Raja. The king of mountains, so Giriraj, Raj meaning king, and Giri referring to mountain or mountain, descended from Goloka Vrindavan and is the crown jewel of Raja. And Govardhan is described in two ways. It's described as the greatest devotee of Lord Krishna, and then secondly as being non-different from Krishna himself. And so as the best servant or devotee of Krishna, Govardhan provides the following service to Krishna. So to Krishna and Balaram and all the inhabitants, Govardhan provides them with the necessities of life, right? With cool, fragrant drinking water, with pure honey, various juices, herbs, roots, fruits, creepers, flowers, minerals, and precious gems. And Govardhan has deep caves where Krishna and Balaram and their cow boyfriends rest and take shelter from the rain and scorching sun. And in these same caves, in the evenings, Krishna enjoys these loving pastimes with Radharani. And Govardhan has special grasses for the cows that makes them strong and healthy and helps increase the cow's milk production, making ghee for sacrifices and for cooking, and which is turned into an array of wonderful foodstuffs. And then Govardhan Hill acts as like a stage for Krishna to perform his wonderful pastimes. So in all these different ways, Govardhan is the topmost servant of Lord Krishna. But at the same time, Govardhan is non-different from Krishna. In fact, when Lord Chaitanya visited Vrindavan Dham and visited Govardhan, he refused to walk on Govardhan Hill, as because Govardhan is Krishna himself, and one doesn't walk on Krishna. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 24, Krishna states, Sukadeva Goswami states, Krishna then assumed an unprecedented, huge form to instill faith in the cowherd men, declaring, I am Govardhan mountain. And he ate the abundant offerings. So during the ceremony of Govardhan Puja, all the offerings were brought and then offered to Govardhan. And then Krishna assumed this huge form, showing that he was Govardhan Hill. And he consumed all the food offerings and declared, I am Govardhan Hill. So at the same time, of course, little Krishna was still there while he's manifesting this huge form. Together with the people of Raja, the Lord bowed down to this form of Govardhan Hill, thus in effect offering obeisances to himself. Then he said, just see how this hill has appeared in person and bestowed mercy upon us all. And then rocks from Govardhan Hill, or Shilas, are worshipable, just like a deity of Krishna. So actually one shouldn't go to Govardhan and just take a rock or a Shila. One requires the permission of Gurudev, of a spiritual master, to engage in the worship of a Govardhan Shila. But like normally with the deity, one needs to invite Krishna to enter into the deity and accept our worship. But with the Govardhan Shila, as with the Shalagram Shilas from the little black rocks, one doesn't need to invite Krishna. You don't have to install the deity. Krishna is the Shila. And so various of Lord Chaitanya's associates, worshipped Govardhan Shilas. So the pastime of Srimad Bhagavatam, pastime of Govardhan Puja and Krishna's Govardhan Leela is described in various Vedic literatures and Puranas, but most in particular in the Srimad Bhagavatam in chapters 24 to 27. And in Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, he states that the word Govardhan means that which nourishes the cows. So Go refers to cows. And so Govardhan means that which nourishes the cows. And he describes that Govardhan provides abundant grass to feed the cows. And the cowherd men's very occupation and livelihood depends upon having healthy, well-fed cows. So Govardhan is like the source of the wealth and the livelihoods of the cowherd men of Vrindavan. Of course, Nanda Maharaj is the king of the cowherd men. And Vrindavan was an agricultural community centered around cow protection. And so Govardhan, providing these wonderful grasses, is essential to their livelihoods and their whole life. And this is why Krishna advocated that they worship Govardhan. So initially they were just after Krishna and Balaram just dealt with the Yagnik Brahmanas who were performing sacrifices, in the Vedic way, but then Balaram goes to ask for something to eat because Krishna and his cowherd friends are hungry, and the Brahmanas refuse in a very puffed up way. So then they go and ask the wives of the Brahmanas, and the wives of the Brahmanas, of course, take Krishna various offerings. So after just dealing with that incident, dealing with these Vedic type Brahmanas who have missed the whole point of the whole thing of what they're doing, then Krishna and Balaram then go and find, well, Nanda Maharaj is preparing a sacrifice to Indra, to a demigod. And so Krishna is like not very pleased by this, not very impressed by this. And then he begins to discuss and of course Krishna is just a young boy, right? Nanda Maharaj and his the cowherd man and the cowherd women, they consider Krishna just to be a child. But here, when Krishna begins to attempt to dissuade Nanda Maharaj from performing this sacrifice for Indra, and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti describes that the reason for this pastime is because Krishna was eager to perform his pastime of lifting Govardhan Hill. Krishna's eager to engage in this pastime. And he also wanted to smash Indra's pride. Indra's become very puffed up. In fact, throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are many pastimes of Indra. And generally speaking, quite often he's a bit of a culprit or the instigator of bad things, and he's always having to get his pride smashed. Or in fact, the whole reason why Indra has, you see Indra drawn with 1,000 eyes upon him, it was because he had sex with a different sage's wife. He disguised, she's very beautiful. He disguised himself to look just like this sage, and went and had sex with the sage's wife. And once the sage found out, he was furious with Indra, and then cursed him to have 1,000 vaginas on his body. So somehow Indra managed to get him to overlook this, and he asked the sage to turn them into, or the sage agreed to turn them into eyes. So anyway, Indra is on occasion, a bit of a nefarious character. And so anyway, Krishna wanted to crush his pride. This is one of the reasons for his pastime. And most importantly, according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Krishna wanted to enjoy pastimes with his loving devotees for 7 days under the shelter of Govardhan Hill. So the pastime is described in 4 chapters of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapters 24 to 27. And the 4 chapters are worshipping Govardhan Hill, Krishna lifts Govardhan Hill, wonderful Krishna, and prayers by King Indra. So from these chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam or from the Krishna book, we can learn so much about Krishna's pastimes and Krishna's relationship with his devotees, Krishna's relationship with King Indra. And so we can, and by studying these pastimes, we can derive great happiness and transcendental pleasure from seeing Krishna's loving affairs with his devotees. So I was going to go through, pull out some highlights from each of these chapters. From chapter 24, the worshipping of Govardhan Hill, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Sri Chaitanya Shikshamrita, he explains that this Indra Puja, Varana Lila, the prohibition of the worship of Indra by Krishna. So this can be taken to signify subduing the anatha, or the unwanted thing, or the misfortune, that is the worship of many demigods, or worship of the individual self as the supreme, thus considering within oneself, I am Brahman. So I've been discussing in my Friday night classes in Healing Chant 108, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's analysis of anathas, or unwanted things. So anathas are things that are keeping us from Krishna. And worship of the demigods is an anatha, or an unwanted thing, that keeps us from Krishna. And so Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has analyzed Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes as to represent various anathas, or faults, or unwanted things that keep us from Krishna. And in particular, this Govardhan pastime, Govardhan Puja pastime, and stopping of the Indra Puja, is showing us the anatha of worshipping the demigods instead of worshipping Krishna. So in the Krishna book, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami explains Krishna's reasons for discouraging the sacrifice performed to please Indra were twofold. First, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, there is no need to worship the demigods for any material advancement. All results derived from worshipping the demigods are simply temporary. And only those who are less intelligent are interested with temporary results. So this material world is temporary. And so this body is temporary. We live at most, 80 years, maybe 90 years. But if you live that long, like, life is becoming a bit unpleasant, not too enjoyable. And, so we are eternal. We are eternal spirit soul. We have been in this material world as described as anadi, beginningless. It can't be traced out. So how many lifetimes have we been in this material world? How many bodies have we gone through? And engaging in worship of the demigods is to achieve some temporary benefit. Oh, I want I want a bunch of money. If you want money, worship Kuvira, the treasurer of the heavens. If you want good rainfall, worship Indra. There's various different demigods you can worship for various different things. You worship Katyayani for a good husband. I think you can also, anyway, I won't go into all the different demigods that you can worship to achieve various different benefits. But these benefits are just temporary. They have to do with being in this particular body. Or even as Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita, those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods. So yes, you can ascend to the heavenly planets, to Indra Loka, where one can live for a longer time period and enjoy a heavenly lifestyle and heavenly pleasures. But nonetheless, these heavenly pleasures come to an end, and one then falls from the heavenly planets and takes birth again in the middle planet of Earth. And from there we can go up or down again. So, but this is all completely temporary. What is the value of trying to enjoy life in this material world? Tusti used to give the rather crude example that it was like, stool is stool. Stool can either be the You can either have the dry, crusty bit that's facing out towards the sun, or you can have the sloshy, icky stuff that, is really bad underneath it, but still they're both stool. So material pleasure in the heavenly planets or whatever is like the dry stuff, it's better than the wet stuff, but stool is stool, So Krishna is teaching that worship of the demigods to achieve temporary pleasures is a waste of time. Secondly, whatever temporary result one derives from worshipping the demigods is actually granted by the permission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is clearly stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Mayayava Uthitan Hitan. Whatever benefit is supposed to be derived from the demigods is actually bestowed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Without the permission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot bestow any benefit upon others. But sometimes the demigods become puffed up by the influence of material nature, thinking themselves as all in all. They try to forget the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And of course, we can apply this to ourselves, right? So a demigod just basically means a person with great power. So a demigod has, demi means like. So a demigod is someone like God. They have godlike powers. So of course, someone like Indra has immense powers, way more immense powers than anyone in this Middle Earth planet. But even someone on this Earth planet can be demigod-like. For example, the President of the United States has all kinds of power. And, as we've just recently seen, despite denials to the contrary, that this power is only temporary. But we can become puffed up by having a little bit of power. The President of the United States may become puffed up. We may become puffed up. I may become puffed up. Oh, look at me, I manage a business. Look how many people I manage. Look how many projects I run. Look how much stuff I know, right? So we can become very proud, falsely proud of these mundane achievements that actually have no value. At the end of this body, it's all over. And it may even be over well before the end of the body. So we can become falsely proud of our material accomplishments, just as King Indra is falsely proud of his position. So similarly, we can become proud. So we can take from this pastime of Krishna, completely crushing Indra's pride, that we can apply this to ourselves and see how Krishna crushes our pride. Krishna is teaching us all a lesson that we are not the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We are not the central enjoying agent. We are actually a servant of Krishna. Whatever benedictions we receive, whatever powers we may have, whatever opulence we may have, whatever good fortune we may have in our life, it is all coming from Krishna. And so we should, see that everything we have is purely the mercy of Krishna, my spiritual master, and not be falsely proud that somehow thinking that I am the cause of it and I am the central enjoying agent. And the purpose of life is to enjoy all this, my position of power and influence or whatever it may be. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, that 7:22, endowed with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. So Krishna is the one who bestows all benefits. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 23. Those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way. So, as I was just describing, Krishna acts to crush the false pride of King Indra and fulfill the purpose of his incarnation. So Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 7 and 8, that yada yada hidamasha glaniya bhavati bharata abhyutanam adamasha tadabhanam shrijam yaham paritranaya sarunam vinashaya chadaskritam dhamma samstapanathaya sambhavani yuge yuge, that I appear yuga after yuga, age after age, to re-establish the principles of religion, dhamma. And then paritranaya sarunam, I appear to protect the devotees and to annihilate the miscreants. And so this is part of, this is Krishna's reasons for, one of his reasons for manifesting his pastimes. So to protect his devotees and to annihilate the miscreants. And so here in Krishna book, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada says, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is clearly stated that in this instance, Krishna wanted to make King Indra angry. Krishna's advent was especially meant for the annihilation of the demons and protection of the devotees. King Indra was certainly a devotee, not a demon, but because he was puffed up, Krishna wanted to teach him a lesson. So it's so easy to become puffed up and falsely proud, right? False ego, ahankara, this sense that I am the doer, I am the central enjoying agent, I am the most important person. This is so, it's so rampant. Essentially, everyone is seeking fame and recognition. So when I say seeking fame, it's like we perhaps think of famous people and think, oh, yeah, they're seeking fame. But actually, we seek fame. We seek fame as being, oh, I'm a good parent, or I'm a good husband, I'm a good spouse, or I'm very beautiful, I'm wearing a nice dress, look at me, I'm wearing a nice white shirt, isn't it cool? Whatever it is, we're always like thinking like this. This is the ahankara, the false ego, right? This sense that I am the doer, I am the central, most important person, that I am this body, look at me. This is our tendency, and we become very puffed up. We become quite proud of our achievements. Oh, look at me. Look at what I've done. Look at this wonderful baby I've given birth to. Look at these wonderful children I've raised and brought up. It's like the false ego is terrible. We become so puffed up. And so the word puffed up is like, you have like a balloon that, you puff and blow up the balloon, you become very puffed up, and then it becomes popped. Unfortunately, for most of us, the balloon pops at the time of death. In fact, this whole experience in this body is just like, like the example given in Srimad Bhagavatam is like when the waves break and bubbles come into existence. Bubbles are formed just for a very short time and then they pop. So our whole life is just like this. It's like a bubble coming into existence. It exists for a while and then it pops, So King Indra, of course, is like a great demigod. He has so much power we can't even imagine. He's the leader of the demigods. Living in Swagaloka, and the beautiful wife Sachi, and so much power and opulence. And it's like, he's in charge of the rainfall. People are worshipping him all throughout the universes, worshipping him to provide rain. He's thinking, oh, I am so important. People worship me. I provide the rainfall. People are dependent upon me. He sits on a big throne so on and so forth. So, it's very easy when one is in such an opulent position to become puffed up. And Krishna desired to teach his devotee. Actually, Indra is a devotee. All the demigods are devotees, but they tend to be materialistic devotees and can become puffed up by their position and status and power. He first tried to make Indra angry by stopping the Indra Puja, which was arranged by the cowherd men in Vrindavan. So in this chapter 24, Krishna also teaches us don't just follow tradition. Krishna comes and asks Nanda Maharaj what's going on, he asks him, why are you doing this ceremony? Is it tradition? And Nanda Maharaj describes, yes, it is our tradition to worship Indra. We're dependent on Indra. So Krishna, of course, was not very impressed with this argument. And Krishna, proceeded to give 6 very kind of philosophical arguments that were actually basically more or less atheistic philosophy to rebut this idea of worshipping Indra. There's no point worshipping Indra. Anyway, I won't go into the different reasons. That's what I didn't want to bring up. Then in chapter 25, Krishna lifts Govardhan Hill. So in this chapter, this is just so much showing that Krishna is the shelter and the protector of his devotees. So I gave some classes recently where I spoke about Sharanagati, 6 self-surrender. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his wonderful songbook, the Sharanagati, just gives various songs that sing about the 6 factors of self-surrender. And one of these 6 factors is Krishna is my sole protector. And we discussed how in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 66, Krishna says, Ma'amikam saranam braja. So just surrender unto me. And eka means one. And braja is with urgency, or is also described as being Braja, of course, is Raja, Vrindavan. So surrender to me in the mood of the devotees of Vrindavan. So one of the 6 aspects of this surrender that Krishna is asking Arjuna to do, just surrender unto me. And then Krishna, in fact, in 18:6 says, I shall protect you. So Sarvadhamam Parityaja, abandon all varieties of Dhamma. Ma'amakam saranam braja, just surrender unto me. Aham tvam sava babebhyo, said Aham tvam sava babebhyo mokshayashyami. I will protect you from all sinful reactions. I will protect you. Asuchaha, do not worry. So Krishna is the protector of the devotees. In his pastime with Arjuna, he tells Arjuna, just surrender unto me. I shall protect you. And in this Govardhan pastime, Krishna protects his devotees. His devotees come to him out of desperation. They have nowhere else to turn. They come to Krishna, please protect us. And Krishna, as the sole protector, reciprocates by lifting Govardhan Hill. So reading from Krishna book, unable to find any other source of deliverance, they all approach Govinda to take shelter at his lotus feet. The cows especially, being very much aggrieved from the heavy rain, bowed down their heads, and taking their calves underneath their bodies, they approached the Supreme Personality of Godhead to take shelter of his lotus feet. At that time, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan began to pray to Lord Krishna. Dear Krishna, they prayed, you are all-powerful, and you are very affectionate to your devotees. Now please protect us, who have been so much harassed by angry Indra. So this is the mood in which the devotee takes shelter of Krishna. Dear Krishna, please protect me. There's nowhere else to turn. Like in this situation, it's described that the rain is just pouring down. There's huge chunks of ice. The water has risen up. What can the cowherd man and the residents of Vrindavan do to protect themselves from this calamity that's taking place around them? And they have nowhere to go but to take shelter of Krishna. And ultimately, of course, we're all in the same situation, right? We're all subject to birth, diseases, old age, and death. Janma, Mritu, Jara, Vyadi. So birth, death, old age, and diseases, we're all subject to this. And we're all subject to the hassles caused by our body and mind and other living entities and the demigods. And with that, where is shelter to be found? Shelter is not to be found anywhere but at the lotus feet of our spiritual master and Krishna. And this is demonstrated very much by this pastime of Krishna lifting Govardhan Hill, where he gives shelter to his devotees. So Krishna says, I shall give protection to my pure devotees in Vrindavan, who are completely at my mercy, and whom I have taken completely under my protection. I will save them by my mystic power. So while Krishna is lifting Govardhan Hill, protecting the devotees, he's giving shelter to them. He enjoys the loving pastimes that he has with them. So Krishna book says, the inhabitants of Vrindavan and their animals remained there for 1 week without being disturbed by hunger, thirst, or any other discomfort. They were simply astonished to see how Krishna was holding up the mountain with the little finger of his left hand. When everything was done, so after Indra gave up, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan approached Krishna and embraced him with great ecstasy. The gopis, being naturally very affectionate to Krishna, began to offer him curd mixed with their tears, and they poured incessant blessings upon him. Mother Yasoda, Mother Rohini, Nanda, and Balaram, who is the strongest of the strong, embraced Krishna one after another, and from spontaneous feelings of affection, blessed him over and over. Radhisham? Okay, and then there's just one other, I had a couple other pages here. Anyway, perhaps another time I can speak further. But I just wanted to say one other thing. In the Nectar of Devotion, there's a pastime from Krishna's lifting Govardhan Hill. You can turn it around. Is described. Anyway, perhaps I'll leave it. So thank you very much for listening and for the opportunity to speak. And we'll just chant for a few minutes, and then the next person can take over. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare